Not too long ago, I was living a completely different life. I was a high-income entrepreneur in Korea running a successful art education business. And from the outside, it looked like I had it all figured out. But deep down, I felt stuck. I wasn't fulfilled, and I knew I needed to make a change, even if it meant walking away from everything I'd built. Now, here I am in Chicago, starting over with negative income, building my dream brand, Mindle, and pursuing a career as an artist and entrepreneur. Some days are amazing, and others, they're a battle. But this year has been all about learning to rebuild step by step. Let me take you through the journey of my 2024 and how I'm turning this new chapter into something meaningful. Welcome to the video. Hi, I am Jessica and I am the artist and business owner for my brand, Mindle. Now in this video, I want to go over everything I achieved in 2024, the lessons I've learned, and my direction for the new year, 2025. Let's get right to it. Let's start from December last year. As I was writing through this, I scrolled down through all of my Instagram posts to see what I did in the past year. And I was actually like super duper surprised by where I was at exactly a year ago. So I wrote this down, like I said, on December 27th. And the post I made the previous year in December 27th, 2023 was this photo right here. I'm not sure if you can see, but I made a post saying my small little studio. And basically, it hasn't been too long since I had my studio space last year, which is crazy to me. And the next post I made is this video right here. And I was still making my abstract flower series, which is insane. I feel like I made this series like 3 years ago. It reminded me how much I actually did in the past year. But anyway, let's quickly get to the next month. So in January, I moved on from my abstract flower series to my organic and quadrilateral series, which you can't see it from here, but this artwork was from that series where I use organic forms with very structural and geometric forms to see how that plays out on the canvas. And these are some of the works I made in January, which is so different from what I do right now. And on January 26, 2024, I had my first ever pop-up show. It was a group show. It was at a gallery called Dragonfly Gallery. This was my debut, basically, in the art world in Chicago. This was an amazing show. I made great connections. This kind of gave me the push to actually dive into pursuing art as a career, which is, honestly, I don't know how I feel about it because it's really not an easy path. But I had a really great time. My friend from college came over to visit and, congratulate me in my first group show, and it was fun. And in February of 2024 is when I started a new series called Bloomers. Now that I have Mindle, I can say that this was probably the prototype for Mindle because I was still doing flowers and I knew that I wanted to personify this flower because just playing with the forms didn't satisfy my inner artistic needs. I wanted to say something bigger. I didn't want it to just be an aesthetic thing. I wanted it to carry some kind of message that I wanted to put out to the world. And that's how Bloomers came about. I really fell in love with these characters, but the love wasn't great enough for me to keep on pushing this forward. I kind of got sick of it, and that's probably why I stopped doing this series relatively quickly. Now it's March of 2024. I didn't have much progress in terms of art in March. I was still doing a little bit of bloomers here and there. I was doing sketchbook series. People were really liking my sketchbook drawings, but it didn't really go anywhere. Now in April of 2024, this was when there was a huge change in my art. I worked at the Expo Chicago. I was very fortunate enough to work with a very highly acclaimed gallery in Korea called Hakkoje Gallery. They came over from Korea for Expo Chicago, and they were looking for someone who can help out with translating from Korean to English. This experience at the Expo Chicago was a pivotal moment for me because my art style changed drastically. I was surrounded by abstract artworks. I was just so moved by how like simple brush strokes can really move someone's heart. I knew that I had to move on to pure abstract artwork that were much more process-based. So that's when I created this series called Was, Is, and Can Be. This is when I started to play around with pouring paint on the canvas. I actively chose to respond to what was given to me instead of actively trying to portray something onto my canvas. I really enjoyed this series, and it carried on to May of 2024. May of 2024 is another pivotal moment. It's when my friend, who is a fashion content creator, he moved from Korea here to Chicago, and that's when I meet her. My interaction with her really sparked this joy and my love for fashion once again. I used to be a fashion and beauty girly back in high school and college, but slowly as I graduated college and moved on to working in Korea, that really killed my joy for fashion, because when you work in Korea, you're very limited in what you can wear. So I no longer felt the joy of, actually going shopping and figuring out new outfits. I would instead invest in a nice staple, simple piece that would match with everything else in my wardrobe. And so I didn't have to go out shopping looking for new looks all the time. That wasn't a thing for me. But once I meet my new friend in May, that kind of reignited my excitement and joy for fashion. And this is what changes everything for me for the rest of 2024 and onwards. Now let's move on to June of 2024. In June, I had another exhibition. I was a part of Evanston Made's 10-year anniversary group show, and I had this piece right here exhibited at the Evanston Art Center. Now, this is another bloomer piece. I still love this piece to this day, and I have it hung up on one of my walls. So from January to May of 2024, I made content all throughout that. I was doing art and I was making content at the same time. I had times when I would be more active with my content. Active meaning incorporating storytelling and trying out different concepts. But then that led me to a burnout, and I leaned more towards easier content like revealing paintings and stuff like that. But my encounter with this new friend in May pushed me back to where I would be more active with my content, with storytelling, trying out different angles, trying out different locations and stuff like that. Another really important thing that happened in June was that I decided to apply to a modeling agency, which is crazy. I, from a very young age, knew that I wanted to do art. That was for sure. Well, not do art, but I knew that I was talented in that. That was my superpower. But modeling, that was not ever a thing in my life ever. But as I did more research on artists, content creators, like artists on social media who was doing well that I wanted to emulate, I realized that these people had 3 keywords. 1 was art, 2, fashion, and 3, modeling. They were models and also artists. And when I realized this, I was like, okay, why don't I try it out? I researched top 10 modeling agencies in Chicago, and BMG Models accepted me, which was crazy. So this was when I started my modeling gig on the side. So now we're in July, we're in the second half of the year. And this is when I officially signed with BMG. So I think in June, I applied to modeling agencies, and July is when I officially signed. And this is when I picked up on fashion content. And at this point, I still had one social media account, and this was under Jessica Park Diaries. If you've been following along since Jessica Park Diaries, you are a trooper. I love you. Thank you for being here. So back then I had my art content and my fashion content all together in one account. In August, I really dove deeper into more fashion content. I was doing all of the fashion trends on that social media account, and that also bled over to my art. I started wanting to do fashion inspired abstract art. So I still wanted to carry on the abstract aspect of what I was doing in my previous series, but I wanted to give it a twist. And this was when I started to save all of the fashion images that I really loved on Instagram, take images from brands and have my own twist to it and make abstract art from them. And these are some examples of the series. Now, I had fun doing this, but felt like there was still something missing. And this is when we move on to September. And in September, I had another pop-up show. This was a one-day show. I was able to hold an exhibition at a church event. I had mixed emotions in that event because one, it wasn't a proper art show, like it was a church event. And so I don't think there was the right audience. I did curate the show so that people at church would be interested in my art. However, it just didn't feel right to me. And after that event, I went into this sort of a rut where I really wanted to spend time really diving deeper into my art, figuring out what is it that is unique to me, what is my artistic voice. I had a conversation with my husband at this point, and my husband pointed out that, you know, like all of your art, it is interesting. However, it's difficult to tell that these works are by the same artist, meaning that stylistically, they fluctuate, and I knew that too. So by spending some time exploring my art and the direction that I can push it towards, this is when I find my dandelion, Mindle. Now in September, it still was not Mindle yet, because at first I was exploring with just the forms of dandelions, such as this. The abstract part of these images still came from fashion. I knew that I wanted to keep this element of fashion that I really enjoy and somehow tie it back to my original art practice, which was painting flowers. And now we're in October, and one day I had all of this frustration in me, and I actually made a video of that, so you can go check that out right here. But I had this frustration built up in me, and I was attacking the canvas with my own emotions, and then I added the dandelion form, and I knew that there was something missing, and they were these eyes. And when I put these eyes on these dandelions, I knew that this was the direction I was going to commit myself to. And that's how Mindle came about. October was also when I decided that I should separate my modeling account and my art account. I think later down the road, I do want to somehow bring them both together and make this one brand. Now we're almost at the end of the year. We're in November. And in November, I decide to commit myself to posting every single day on Instagram. Posting every single day on Instagram means posting almost every single day on my other platforms such as YouTube and also TikTok. And here I do see growth. And the biggest part of November was actually me prepping for Christmas. This was my first ever product launch, and I made a stack of Christmas card designs, and I wanted to have most of my content ready before it was December so I could post daily throughout December. And now it's finally December of 2024. My cards start selling. There's lots to talk about in terms of how my Christmas cards did. I am so grateful that I did make some profit, and I think it came to kind of an even. I earned as much as I put into this project. But one thing I am grateful for, and at the same time kind of disappointed, is the fact that all of the purchases made were by my friends, which means none of these purchases were made from my community that I am building online. But that also means that I had a lot to learn from this experience. Now there's two other really big events happening in December. Actually, there's three big events. One is that I had my first ever collaboration with a fashion brand. I could not believe it when this happened because this was exactly what I was looking towards. The way I was building up my brand, I wanted to get to a point where I do collaborate with a fashion brand, whether I make a design for their, I don't know, t-shirt launch, or whether I was designing like a packaging for their product. And this became reality. And I'm going to make a whole separate video for how this happened and what the process looked like and the things I learned from the experience. So look out for that video. So that's one very big thing that happened in December. Number two is that I got featured in 3 different magazines. I had this huge photo shoot, and this all came about by me reaching out to people, and it was a product that I and mostly the photographer, 2 of us, creatively directed. And the last big news in December is that I decided to open up a home cafe. I'm not actually selling coffee or selling any drinks, but it is huge in that I really fell in love with making coffee and making matcha, making these drinks so that I can enjoy, my husband can enjoy, and all of my friends who come over to my house can enjoy. And this is going to be a whole new project. The name of my home cafe is called Mindle Cafe, and I even made a menu for it. And yes, I will have a whole separate series of videos of me setting up my home cafe because it has turned into a whole project. So you'll be seeing more of that content from here on out. Whew, so that was a lot to cover. But one thing I learned by looking back to my previous year was that I really did achieve a lot more than I thought. You know, living day by day really gets you frustrated sometimes, really feeling like you haven't achieved much and you are not getting any closer to your dreams. There was actually no reason for me to feel so stuck because I was doing so much and I actually achieved so much. So I decided maybe in the next year, if I once again get in a season of burnout and whenever I feel like I'm not achieving anything, I'll look back to this video and think, you know, Jessica, you were feeling exactly the same last year at this point, but look at what you did last year because you achieved a lot and you are doing so well. So stop being so hard on yourself. Just keep yourself grounded and have faith and be patient. I think that was the biggest lesson for me this year, was to have patience. And I think moving forward into 2025, I'm really going to try to live it out. Have patience and have faith and keep doing what you love doing. If you guys came this far along in the video, thank you guys so much. It really means the world to me that someone would spend a portion of their time watching me, finding my life interesting. You know, that's crazy. But thank you for being here. And I would also like to encourage you to maybe spend some time looking back at what you did, what you achieved in 2024. You actually might be surprised by how much you've actually come along. Every small step adds up. So wherever you are in your journey, just keep going. Just like what Mindle would say to you. Now, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do subscribe and please join me for my ride in 2025. Thank you guys so much for watching and I will see you in the next one. Bye. It's gonna be alright.